So, welcome to everybody. We're off with the, 57th Areopa webinar. Welcome everybody. Today I have as guest Dmitry Katson, who's going to talk about GitHub Copilot and shows us a demo with Business Central. At the moment, Dmitry has a challenge. We were on time and all of a sudden the machine he was using, the virtual machine, broke down. So he's trying to get everything in place. So a big thumb up to you, Dmitry, and thanks for being here on as the first one this season, number 4. Yes, we're starting a little bit late. It has been busy conferences, trying to get people to talk about what they're doing and what they could be sharing. But of course, with conferences, everybody has been busy, not only me, but everyone. So today is the start of season 4. And as you might have seen on the newsletter, we've already projected 6 sessions and there's a 7th already also in the planning set, but I'll send out a newsletter somewhere next week. So as normal, of course, welcome around the globe. Those who are familiar with this one, sorry for that, but just to be sure that everybody attending today is in the know, a couple of housekeeping rules. Your microphone is muted. You cannot unmute it. You can post questions by using the question window of GoToWebinar. I'm your moderator. My name is Luc van Vugt, and I will pose questions to Dmitry. Might be on the fly if it fits well at that moment, or I'll pick it up a little bit later when there is a more logical break to pose and answer some of the questions. So be welcome to, let's say, be part of this in the sense of more than just being listening and watching, but if you have questions, come up with them. Let's be interactive, of course, as much as possible. As always, a slide on our recordings, and at the bottom we have our YouTube channel URL. After this session has been done, and the recording is running now, so the recording will be picked up and be the next one on this list to be added. So for your reference or to be shared with people, colleagues, whomever you know that haven't been able to join today. So make use of that. Be more than welcome to that. If you're not yet subscribed to our newsletter, use this URL to enlist yourself by your email, and you will be in the know in time on what is ahead. As you know, in the newsletters, there's always the link, direct link to the registration, and you will also find it on our website. And yes, looking ahead on the website, as I said, you will find also everything you might not have noticed. Well, you do if you're here, but for those who watch the recording, we moved from Tuesdays to Mondays. We tried Wednesdays, but that didn't fit well. So we moved to Mondays, actually because of me changing from one part-time job to another one, having Mondays and Wednesdays always as my normal working days, but now Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it should have been another day, and we moved to Mondays. So from now on, in 2 weeks' time, the next Monday, and there is a skip of 3 weeks, I believe, over Christmas time. But here's the list of what's ahead. So on December 5, I will do a session on interface-based injection and test automation. What else you could say maybe. On the 19th, we'll have Stephen Renders on data flows uses for Power BI and Business Central. There will also be a part of using the new Excel report layout. And then we continue after the Christmas break with Waldo on January 9, where he's going to show you a couple of performance tools that he pointed to and probably also used some parts in his BC Tech Days presentation, but now get into more detail into some of them. 2 weeks later, Christoph Bialowas will present on the System app and examples of what is actually there in System app. Do you all know that? There is much more there than we're probably aware of. 2 weeks later, we'll have a session by Marcus Liepert from Cosmo and Tobias Venser, formerly Cosmo. They worked closely together developing Alpaca, their self-service portal for Azure DevOps, and containers, but they're here going to talk about containerizing CI/CD agents for Azure DevOps and GitHub, which is a bit a part that's in the Cosmon tool. And then there is a gap here, but working on others also. But on March 20, David Veldhoff will talk about regular expressions. He did a small part in his used a small part on this in his presentations on BC Tech Days and directions, but we'll have more time here to elaborate on more, let's say, advanced usage. We're continuously looking for new speakers, new topics. Be free to be of a helping hand to this. Send in a mail to me with any suggestions. And before I'm going to hand over to you, Dmitry, thanks to Fornaf, our sponsor, enabling those webinars. So I'm going to make you presenter, Dmitry, and I hope, well, I'm wishing you a lot of fun, and I'm very interested in what you're going to show us. This is totally new for me. I'm seeing your screen. Great.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Luc. Thanks everybody to joining this session. It was interesting for prepare, and especially last 10 minutes when everything broke down, and it's forgotten feelings just before the start of the session. You need to repair everything. So let's talk today about the GitHub Copilot and how to write AL extensions for Business Central with the power of artificial intelligence. That would be fun, I would say. So that's me. My name is Dmitry Katson. I'm an MVP and architect and developer and team leader of my own Katson.com company. I have like more than 15 years of experience in Business Central and NAV before, and also some kind of experience in AI. So it's very interesting to me to explore this area as well. So today we will talk about what's the GitHub Copilot, how to configure that, how to start with the suggestions, and then we'll do some demos, and I will give my thoughts of how what it could cover better, what could cover not so well, and we will leave some time for Q&A. So the GitHub Copilot, as it says in its official website, is a AR pair programmer, but I would rephrase it, and I would say that it's just code suggestion tool, or in other words, autocomplete tool for your code. So it's based on the context of your code, based of your language you are working on, and some other parameters, and we will see today in live how it works. So yeah, just from this very beautiful GIF, you see that you need to start, and then GitHub Copilot will finish. That's in the ideal world. So the architecture behind this is, well, it's very top level architecture, but behind the scenes there is a trained model that knows how to convert human language to a code, and when you do the coding stuff in the VS Code, it analyzes what you're typing, and then it sends through the GitHub extension to the service. So it's to the backend, the backend analyze. The backend has the model. The model analyze what it received from your code and send back the suggestions for. Actually, it's a predictions of the code that you are going to type, and then you can accept these suggestions or not accept, and depending on your choice, this will improve the model, because it not just was trained once and then working somewhere in the Azure. It's also learning while you code. So it also learns about your style of coding, and then applies your style of coding for you especially, because all this is happening through your GitHub account. So to start with that, there are actually two mandatory steps, and the third one is optional. The first one is to sign up in the GitHub Copilot webpage. So I think let's quickly go here. So you see the signing up. Let me open this virtual machine. So you need to go to your GitHub account, and then to the settings, and then you need to enable GitHub Copilot in your for your account. So you need to have a GitHub account, and you need to enable GitHub Copilot for your account. This has 60 days free trial. Then it's like $10 per month or $100 per year. And like if any of the MVPs listen for me, for the MVPs, we have it free. So then you need. So that was the first mandatory part. Then you have like additional configuration. If you would like to suggest a code which is matching the public code, which means that I will talk about this a little bit later, but for now, I would say that when the first model was trained, it was trained on the public code, and when it suggests something for you, it can suggest a code that already exists as a public code in the GitHub. And according to the paper or documentation for the model, it says that it's 0.1% of suggestions can happen as a copy of the public code. So if you are fine with that, you can just leave this as it, or you can select an option to not suggest you the code that somewhere exists in the GitHub as is. The second step here, you need to install VS Code extension for the VS Code. So it is named GitHub Copilot. And if you, where is this one? So we just go to the extensions and you search for GitHub Copilot, and you install it. And when you install the extension, it will ask you to log into the GitHub. So you will log into the GitHub from the extension, and it will then do the connection between your VS Code and the GitHub Copilot. And here in the bottom, you have this icon where you can activate or deactivate Copilot. And by default, it's activated. Okay, and what else? Yeah, so here you sign to the GitHub Copilot, and actually that's it. So there are two additional steps that you can configure. The first one I told about. It's to not suggest you pieces of code that is the same as somewhere in the GitHub. And another one is for the VS Code. It's where is it? Yeah, it's here. And like for the VS Code, you can configure the keyboard shortcuts for the Copilot, or you can especially configure, I think it's somewhere here, you can configure the languages that, so it's here. So you can configure the languages that Copilot will suggest, for which Copilot will suggest you the code. And actually there is, I didn't find AL there. Yeah, because maybe it's our language is not so big enough. But for the other languages, you can do such configuration. But by default, the Copilot is activated for all languages. So let's see, like the first suggestion how it work. I like prepared here. It's a blank app, like no code here, just an app.json file, nothing special here. Let's go just to this one. So you see that I created the AL file. So it's AL extension, but it's nothing here. I just added a comment. Like I want to, my task will be to add the open field to the general ledger entries that will tell the user if the corresponding vendor or customer ledger entries are open or not. So if you saw in the beginning of the webinar, there was a recording that if you add a comment, let me just delete that. Okay, save, and then I enter here. Then some magic should happen. But like for AL, this magic is not happening from the beginning, even if we are inside of AL file. So the first way how we can search for some suggestions is the using the keyboard shortcuts. It's different on Windows or Mac. In this, I using the Control-Enter. So this will Control-Enter will open this separate window with some suggestions, and you see that it's something from this SQL. This seems very familiar to AL, but nothing very helpful. So that's the first. I would say. So the Copilot doesn't work very good if it's nothing here. So if it's a blank file. So we need to start. Okay, so let's do the page extension. And let's say it's GL entries. You see, I'm waiting a little bit, especially because you see that the Copilot is working while I'm typing, and now it suggests something for me. So now it's understood that, okay, this page extension is something from the AL. So it's something that doesn't present in other languages. So some page extension, something very familiar with AL. So it uses extends GL entry, which I actually, the GL entry is a table, but I need a page. It doesn't understand the architecture of Business Central because it works on the code that's publicly available on the GitHub. So, okay. But what you can also do, you see that it's next or previous. So you can come here, click here and see different suggestions. Okay, this one seems for me more close of what I need. I will just change something. General ledger entries. Add last. Okay, maybe I don't want to add last. Maybe add after source number. This is good. Okay, so it's a field, the open. It's declared for me, the open as a Boolean, fine. And now it's assigning something, but I don't want to assign it on the open page. So I want to trigger on after get record. And now you see it's suggesting me the variables, customer ledger entry and vendor ledger entry. It seems it's suggesting it's very right, but I prefer to do my own style of coding. Okay, so I would say, okay, you're putting all in one function, but I want to do the function like check if open. Okay, fine. And now, okay, I want a function, and it suggests me a name of the function. Okay, once again suggesting me the variables. Okay, I will not accept it. I want now do separate functions. Check if vendor entry open, or, and I also want to check if customer ledger entry open, and if it suggests me exactly this. Now I need this function, check if vendor entry open, and it's not very what I would like. Okay, so it's if rec source type. Okay, good. If it doesn't equal to vendor, then exit. Right, okay. But I also need, yeah, I need this, but I also want to get it by the rec entry number. And if not, then exit. Right, okay. And I need a variable. Good, thank you. And yeah, well, I can do like this, but maybe it's better like this. So you saw that we, together with a GitHub Pilot, prepared this function. And now I need to do the same function, but for the customer. And in usual world, I will just maybe copy this and then change the name, change the record. But with the Copilot, I can just click on tab, 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 and tab. And I will just, oh, okay. So, and that's actually where the GitHub Copilot is very good at, because it looks at the patterns in your code. So here I checked for the vendor, and it knows that, okay, I was going to check it for the customer, and it created for me the same function, but for the customer. Okay, so, but I think I lost something here. So, okay, it's check it open, vendor, but what is not vendor or customer? I think I need to clear this, or, oh yes, I need to make it false. Good. And I think we are ready to go to publish that. And okay. Sorry for that, but okay. Let's see. Okay, that was not magic. Not very complicated part. Stuff that's here. I don't know if we will find, but let's see. Let's go from another side. Vendor ledger. So we have it open. Okay, that works. Good. Copilot, we made it.
Yo.
So now some words about how it was trained and why it's good for one languages and why it's bad for other languages. So this is like I made a screenshot for the from the official paper from this model. It was trained in May 2020 from the public repositories on the GitHub. Actually, 54 million public repos from the GitHub using the Python. So initially it was trained on the Python. And they actually took about 159 gigabytes of code available as the public repos for the Python. I did a small research, and I actually found that in AL currently we have about 44,000 files for AL publicly available in the GitHub. And I took our Business Central code, and with the help of Copilot for Python, I combined them in one file. And I found that all our code, Business Central code, it's now 4,149,000 lines of code. But it's just about 400 megabytes of data. So it's 400 times less. What's more interesting is that this is actually, so what code we have available on the GitHub for AL. So we have a language AL, and we have a Microsoft repos where AL app files, and we have Stefano code, which is actually a full Business Central code. But the interesting thing that on the day, on the month when this was trained, the Stefano code was not available in the GitHub. So, because if we will look in the commits here, we will see that it appeared here on the June 2021. And so it's after 1 hour, after 1 year, sorry, when this model was trained. So I'm not sure if the GitHub Copilot used this repo for training afterwards, because what we know is just that Copilot, after initial training, was learning while the developers were working on. But who on our community worked with the GitHub Copilot afterwards? Well, I worked with them for 1 year, and it works well for me for the AL tasks, but it should improve every day.
May I pose a question, Dmitry?
Yeah.
So you said from this text, it was collected in May 2020, and you said it's learning every day. So this is the basis, and everything else what is added while people are developing, or everything else is added while the people are developing still. That's the case?
Yeah, so because I'm not sure how it's learning, because I think that initially it was trained, and then when users were activating Copilot on their VS Code environments and working with that and accepting or not accepting suggestions, it learned. Because another way of learning is do the initial learning of the model, like it says here, but then do once again relearning with a new public data, and that's another thing. And I didn't find anywhere information if the model was relearned with a new public repos afterwards. So that's why I'm not sure if the PC code that we have is a part of the model. But we saw that it understands that we are working with AL. So some part of it, it's there. Also, I found this interesting phrase from the documentation that it used about 14 kilobytes of memory when suggest you the code, which means that it takes about 256 lines of code. So that's your context of the file where you're working on. And it takes all these lines of code in your file, and each time suggests you code, it suggests you analyzing the data, the code you already have in the file. That's why when we tried this when there was no code, it didn't understand the context of the file we are working on, even if we had a comment. But when we started with a keywords like page extension, it started immediately suggest only code related to the AL. What's also interesting with that is that if we will look into the modern apps that are available in the GitHub, they are very small. And let's say if we take okay, so this is like 300 lines of code. Maybe if we took another one, this also like 370 lines of code. And I would say that from my experience, it's the best size of a file, of number of lines in the file where the GitHub Copilot works very well. Also, this you see that this code unit, let's say this is a data search code unit, it's very good for the Copilot because it has some patterns. Like we saw before, if we have some patterns in the code, it's very good for the Copilot. And also each procedure here, it's very small and do its own stuff. That's also very good for the Copilot. Okay, let's do another demo. Maybe we started a little bit later, so I will try to spend like maybe 10 minutes for that. I was going to create another type of demo, which is actually shows how bad the GitHub Copilot can be for the AL, especially. Let's say we want to import the cryptocurrencies from the list of cryptocurrencies from the external API, and I will use the coin layer API. So I created the comment here: import the cryptocurrency list from coin layer. Use this to populate the currency table, and use the next JSON response payload. So let's see if, because there was actually a question in my Twitter, if we can do something like this. So I have the API documentation. Let's check if I will just copy that, paste here as a comment. Can we do something like this? Oh, and for the initial suggestions, it's not very much here. It's not really very much, and it's something definitely not AL related. So let's start once again. So let's see if that will work. Import crypto implementation. Okay, let's start. Okay. So let's see if I can suggest something AL related now. Something closer, but let's see what it's proposed. So definitely we have some web request, web response, stream, and we have even some API URL. It knows about where to look at, but it's all .NET related, and it's an opposite side of the model, because if you have much more examples in the public repos, but in another language, and I suppose that it's very like popular API, but nobody worked with this API in AL. I think it was like a C# or Python. So that's why it suggests the .NET here. I will not take this. So let's maybe start just typing. Let's start with the, let's say, URI. And you see that it suggests us the URI. And this URI is actually correct, because if we look here, so it's this URI. Okay, that's fine. But we need access key. Okay, and get access key. Good one. And we need access key. And we will exit with a key, let's say. I think I had a key here. Okay, so far so good. And we need a variable. and it's text, right? Good. But then we need to make a call, so we need HTTP client. You see that it suggests us the code unit HTTP client or the .NET. But I want to use internal. And I want to use HTTP client get. This is okay. We need a response. Let's do the response. Okay, thank you. We need a response, but this is a response message actually. Let's try now. Yeah, now we need a response. And oh, that's okay. Your response, but that's not status. It's HTTP status. Content. Let's first do the JSON. Okay, let's do the text. This was almost correct, but we use the read as. And we will pass here the JSON text. Okay, we need a procedure.
We need to keep a little bit an eye on time, Dmitry. It's 10 minutes to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think I will not go through the end of this demo, but at least some. Okay, so we have this text. Then, okay, I want to, what I have here. We will use this one. So actually, I need a crypto object. Okay, let's do the. You see what it suggests to me? It suggests to me a name, symbol, and icon, and max supply variables. And that's actually the variables that are used here. So they are correct, but I will use the JSON object, but once again, it's just for me the .NET JSON object. And I need just a currency. Okay, I need to take from this. Well, you see that now it suggests to me, it seems like to be an AL format, but it's not. So it suggests the correct logic, but in the wrong language. That's because like the JSON and web request stuff are almost the same in syntax in different languages, and it has the more knowledge about how it looks in the other languages. So I think we need to finish here because I can continue with that until the end of this procedure, but I think you got the idea because of here.
Yep.
And some final thoughts. So it works very well for AL in short files, like between 30. Like 30 is my own experience. It's nothing declared in the documentation. But you need to start from something and work in a context of something. So in this case, Copilot will give you a better suggestions. But the files should not be very big, like not more than like 300 lines, I guess. Then follow these two guidelines from the AL guidelines website. So the generic guideline and the variable name guidelines give, if you follow them, it will give the best results for the Copilot suggestions. One procedure should do like one thing. It's better if you do something for one table, then if you want to do the same for another table, put it in another procedure. That will give you some pattern for the Copilot, and the suggestions will be better. The more AL specific code, the better suggestions. So if we deal with the posting routines or with assigning fields to the tables in AL format, or doing some stuff in the code units, AL related, calling it like this, that gives better suggestions, like I showed in the first example. But if it's more generic things, like working with the web services, JSON stuff, something that it has more knowledge in another languages, it will, I would say it will give you the suggestion in the logic, but not in the syntax. The more chain code worse suggestions, I mean, the chain code is something like this. So it's import and then use these to do to populate the fields, and then use, so it's a chain of tasks in one line or in one procedure. The more tasks, the worse suggestions. And I would just suggest to activate it and be patient. Maybe it will give you not as good results at the beginning, but while you will work with that, it will learn from you how you code, how you your style of coding, and from time to time it will give you the better results. Okay, so let's see if we have a QA.
There were no questions on the question board. Some remarks. Apparently, I did show the wrong view on the screen, so not the. It was the presenters mode. I will fix that in the recording. And there was something on some links that were not working on the website. And the remark from Achim Teschner that the task you started with was actually on a table and not on a page, but I think the demo was very clear. I think no questions at all. I like the demo, Dmitry. It surely showed the possibilities, and I'm quite impressed by what you showed already. So I'm looking forward to. Does this mean that you're always have this on while you're now while you're developing an AL?
Yes, and I activated this in any environment I work with, like on my local machine and on my virtual machines. So it's there on all my VS Code environments.
Okay, so
I would say that I'm get used to that, and I feel myself very difficult to work without
that. Getting lazy.
Yeah, because it's actually saves much time if you need to, well, if you have some repetitive code.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. We're almost at the hour, so nicely on time, and we're going to close off. Thank you very much, Dmitry, for being here and taking the time. It's already late on your side. Hope to meet you again somewhere later. And everybody who's been here, thank you for being here, and have a great evening, afternoon, or like you, Dmitry, have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.